Hello everybody, my name is Ann Théato and welcome to episode 71 of the Psychic Matters podcast. My fabulous guest this week is evidential medium and spiritual teacher Lauren Rainbow, who talks to us about her incredible work as a sacred travel guide, sharing with us how we can connect to the healing magic of ancient sacred places, integrating their energy and light into our centered heart. Lauren has led several life-changing group journeys to Egypt, Peru, Mexico, and India, creating openings for sacred ceremonies, healing meditations, and other spiritual development opportunities along the way. This episode will teach you how to trust your gift of intuition, understand the importance of gratitude, and recognize why your life is the ultimate sacred journey. Just before we get into the episode, let me share something with you that you may or may not know. I want to talk to you about the Mediumship Hour. Yes, one of the web's best kept secrets. I've mentioned it a couple of times on this podcast, so it's actually not really that secret. And I thought I would take the opportunity to mention it again today. The Mediumship Hour takes place every Tuesday evening throughout the year at 7 p.m. UK time zone, 2 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. PST on the internet via Zoom. And it's a free 1-hour event which I offer every single week. And I work usually with either Leslie Malone or Tyrone Cusack, two amazing mediums. And we spend that hour bringing messages through from communicators in the spirit world to the audience in the Zoom room. Last week, we had a record 47 people attend. Thank you to all of you who came to that. Everyone across the world is welcome to join us. So if the Mediumship Hour sounds like something you'd like to check out, you can find the Zoom joining details on my website under online courses and events. If you are curious about mediumship, or perhaps you're hoping to get a message or a contact from one of your loved ones in the spirit world, maybe you are someone who can't get to a church or a centre, or maybe you just want to come along and watch to see what it's all about, well, you are more than welcome. Head over to anntheato.com, click on the tag labelled online courses and events, and you can pick up the Zoom joining details there. We would love to see you. And now for this week's episode. Settle down on your chair, get yourself a beautiful cup of tea, a wonderful cup of coffee, a glass of cool water, or the comforting drink of your choice, while I listen to the traffic go by the window and decide that I am not going to edit that bit out. I've edited so many passing trucks you would not believe. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm very excited to welcome our new guest today. It's Lauren Rainbow. She's a psychic medium, an evidential medium, a spiritual teacher, and a sacred travel guide. Lauren, welcome to Psychic Matters.
Oh, thank you for having me in. This is lovely. I'm excited to be here. And hello to everyone.
Hello. I'm so glad that you found time to come on this show. It's really, really good of you to make time in your schedule, Lauren. And I've never heard of, well, I have heard of a sacred travel guide, but it just seems such a specific thing. I wonder if you could just enlighten us all what a sacred travel guide is, does, and experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a great question, because everybody understands at this point what a psychic medium does. And being a sacred travel guide, kind of, a title, we're still evolving a little bit. But what I do as part of my work as a medium and teacher is bringing people to ancient places like India, Egypt, Peru, on these real life journeys that are amazing opportunities to work with these ancient temples and lands and sacred places to awaken our heart, to shift our lives, to deepen our connection to our own spiritual well-being and understanding, and just exploring the opportunity to really create profound shift in our lives. So Sacred Travel Guide really is specifically bringing to those ancient cultures and lands, but we move people on unique journeys. That's the other part about why we call it sacred travel. I always say this is not your grandma's travel. We're not just going to stand at the Sphinx, take a picture and walk away. I mean, we're getting you a private opportunity to connect with these, get into the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, or to be along the Ganges and in India and chanting with them, the sacred sadhus, and really connecting in a sacred way with this earth that reminds us, and I get goosebumps as we talk about it, that reminds us that perhaps we have connections to other lands, and that a lot of these places were built with intent and energy that creates shift in our lives. So I hope that puts it all in a nutshell.
I mean, it sounds absolutely amazing. So where did this come from? How did it start? I mean, I would love to go on something like this, and I'm sure many of my listeners would as well. How did it begin for you? How did you suddenly begin taking people to these fascinating places?
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, I'll say, as I think most of us understand with our spiritual awareness, our intuition, we know from a young child that there's something. And before I even knew, I understand what being a medium was, I was drawn as a young child to wanting to go to the Great Pyramid or wanting to be the Sphinx. And I just knew as a young kid, I wanted to experience Stonehenge, and I would dream about these places. So as I got older and wiser and, started to become an adult, I would dream about going. And the first time I went on a sacred journey as a participant, I was brought to England, where we went to Tintagel and visited Stonehenge. And it was done in such this amazing way where we were an intimate group. We had like a private visit with Stonehenge. We were connecting to these sites. So we would stand in ceremony and got into a crop circle. I remember the first time I walked into a crop circle, I was like, oh my God, there's something going on here, and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And so then I believe, and part of the things that I like to share, Ann, as any kind of, spiritual person, psychic, intuitive, that when we trust our gifts and open up, the universe kind of guides us, doesn't it? So I was then invited 20 years ago to Peru, just after I come back from England, on another journey where I was, holding space with a teacher, but I was learning how to do shamanic work and create space there. And I kind of went, this could be fun. I went to Egypt for the first time in 2010. And that's when I said, I've got to do this. I just have to. But it wouldn't be for another 7 years where I launched my first journey to go to Teotihuacan, Mexico, the 3 amazing pyramids down there. And after years of working with friends and colleagues to try to figure out, how do we do this? How do we create the space? Now we are about 8 journeys in to several places around the world since 2017. And I'm so excited. It's just amazing. I get to spoil you guys on journeys. I mean, we are VIP all the way, and just exciting magic happens on these explorations.
I mean, it just sounds incredible, all these ancient civilizations and beautiful places. But how did that, I'm going to pin you down. How did you set your intention? You've really got to do this. You've got to bring other people with you to experience this. But how did it unfold? Who did you meet? How did you get access to some of these incredible places? And how did it become VIP, for instance?
Right. So the first journey I went to, the last I participated in was in Teotihuacan, Mexico, with a friend of mine. When we said one day to each other on top of the moon pyramid, here we go, we want to do this one day. And 5 years later, we sat down and finally said, and let me be clear, when I left Teo, it was such a profound shift that I actually walked away from that part of the world saying, I don't need to come back. That's good for me. And that ended up being the first place we go. And we started to connect with certain guides just in the journey there. We had met people that we just really linked with. So we had already established a relationship to build that. The journeys to Egypt and India are my big VIP ones, as I say. I've been blessed to just meet amazing guides. The guide that led me through Egypt the first time, Emil, works with wonderful spiritual teachers as well. He's well known in the industry, but super busy. But we connected. So when I reached out to him and said, would you recommend somebody to do a journey for me? I figured maybe he'll get me somebody else. And he called me up and said, I'm going to do this for you. I will be your guide. And I went, So I think when you're ready to bring it to the world, the universe just starts to create the connection. And so the same happened with Peru. There's this wonderful chakaruna, Jorge Luis Delgado, who has published many books. He's just incredible shamanic teacher of Peru. Works with amazing Hay House authors. I was at a convention one time and we sparked up a conversation, and he now helps guide us through Peru. So it's really just, divine intervention. Okay, you want to create this, then here are the pieces that you need to make it happen. What makes them VIP? This is the key, and I'm not trying to brag, but it's amazing. When we go through Egypt, you get private visits. So we get the Sphinx by ourselves. We get inside the King's Chamber. We get to stand at the Mother Temple on the Nile at sunrise without tourists. We have our own private boat that floats down the Nile for days as we're stopping at temples with no other tourists but our group. I mean, spoiled, rotten is what we're trying to do, but it just helps us create the space to also do these ceremonial moments where, when we're in the King's Chamber, we're inside for 2 hours, singing, chanting, creating energy. And just, I'm getting goosebumps as we talk. Imagine chanting inside the King's Chamber, it just shifts your life. So, we really create the same thing with India. I mean, we're going to the oldest cities in India, the most holy along the, Varanasi as a medium. Varanasi, we get to visit the burning ghat where for 4 centuries, the sacred fire has been burning. And it just brings emotion to me when we talk about that. So we're really bringing up you to very unique places. When I was there with Tony Stockwell, we went to the Beatles ashram in Rishikesh, and everybody, remembers like, oh my God, this is where the Beatles were. So, we're really just creating very special moments, but spiritually specific. So you will see the Taj Mahal, for example, when we go to India, because you can't not see the Taj Mahal. It's not necessarily the most sacred space, and we go to even more ancient cities than that. So we call it VIP because we spoil you rotten with the best of the best, but we're also creating this really incredible private life, to visit these places with as well.
It's amazing. So when people come on these journeys with you, what do they take away from that experience? What do they go home with in their heart?
I love this question. A lot of folks, when they're either called to say a place like Egypt and India, sometimes they're coming to a place in their soul that they're drawn to, right? We may feel like in England, for example, some people feel like, oh, I really got to go to Stonehenge, or I really want to, go see this country, this area. So a lot of people are reconnecting with past life or energy that is familiar to them. They come away mostly with a shift of how they want to move forward in their life. Each country we work with is a little bit different in the energy that they carry. So when people leave India, which is one of probably the most profound places of shift is India. When people go, they come back having a different understanding of your own culture, often feeling blessed for what we have and wanting to create more service time in their life, wanting to give more. So I find when people come back from India, they're profoundly shifted in a way that wants to benefit humanity and give back. When people come back from Egypt, they're motivated. Usually Egypt kicks me into a level of, I want to build something new. I want to build something different. So everybody's journey is unique. Everybody's experience is unique, but usually the shift is something that you need to create momentum or clarity in your life. And while we do many retreat opportunities where we can go away, when you're in a place for 2 weeks traveling in an intimate group, you're often ignited. So I tell people when you come home, don't blow up your life because you're going to want to. I always say, let the dust settle, let yourself be with the energy and then make change. Because a lot of times people just come back so lit up by the experience of what they've been through that they want to make a big shift in their lives. So I would say, take a deep breath, let it ground, and then make a conscious shift. Hopefully that explains that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Lauren. And you've got 2 of these coming up, haven't you? You've got the pilgrimage to ancient Egypt in November this year. Yes. And then in January, you've got your adventure on this sacred journey with Lauren Rainbow, the VIP experience through India.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got two coming up in both of these journeys. While we've done them before, they are also unique in that we've added extensions. So with Egypt, we still have a few spots left if anybody's interested. Again, limited group, less than 20 people can fit the group because it's a smaller boat, beautiful 5-star boat where your own room, but only for so many people. And we're doing Petra and Jordan on this visit. So we're adding a beautiful extension. I know you're like,
I've always wanted to go there. Always.
Me too. And we're even going to do a little glamping in the desert on this one. So that will be new for me. So my team, these amazing people who are, the part of the team that helps make the magic happen in, say, Egypt and India and Peru, they always surprise me with something. They always say, let's try this. And I'm like, eh. And then we go there. I'm like, oh, that was amazing. So we have an extension to Jordan for Egypt, and we have an extension to Nepal for India, where we're going to bring you up into Kathmandu to see some of the most incredible Buddhist old temples that live there. It's just phenomenal.
Oh, it sounds wonderful, and lucky people who get to go with you for that experience. And for those of us who may not be able to afford to do something like that, either in time or money, is there something else that we can do to make our life some sort of sacred journey instead?
Oh, I can't believe you're asking. What a gorgeous question. And I'm so happy. This first time someone's ever asked this, and I think this is, even the basis of what could be a book. I have learned that, and it's a practice. I always say it's a practice, but how we experience life on these journeys is a way of like that childlike wonder, the ooh, the ah. And I feel that every day of your life is a sacred journey. Waking up in your home with your family is a sacred moment. So taking time to have childlike wonder for even, and I think that's what India teaches us when we come home, that our lives are amazing. We there's sometimes challenge, but there's sometimes good things. And every part of your life is a sacred moment. So taking childlike wonder from that experience into your everyday life and treating your life even now as a sacred moment can bring magic to your life. And so I think it's a profound question, because the journey is also, and this is something I have to practice with, because when I'm in journey mode or when I'm traveling, I'm still like also, oh, look at where we are. This is amazing. And then we come back to, I've got to, pay the bills, answer the phones, do the emails. And we feel that life has a mundane, but take that moment. Now I go bike riding in the day and going out on the trails and being in the woods of my own local area and going, wow, this is gorgeous. This is just as beautiful as being abroad. And so I think we can take moments every day in our life to just see it, to just witness that, and to have respect for that as well, have honor, respect to spirit, as we would as mediums, psychics, having the gratitude for what we have in our life every day. It shouldn't always be on journey mode. It should be every day of our life.
Yeah, I really like that as well, having gratitude for everything. Because even if you've only got a tiniest little yard, there might be some beautiful flowers growing in a corner, a little weed, a little bush, a little something, the sun shines, the rain falls. There's so much to be grateful for that we do have in the smallest of ways.
Absolutely. And while we love these grand moments, when we can recognize even the smallest moments as joyful,
Yeah.
I really believe that's when we're truly living the way we should as spiritual beings, as people who are awake and aware. Sometimes it's like you're saying, I just started growing night jasmine in my area, which is very hard. And at night they're blooming. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited about the bloom of these flowers. And it makes me as excited as I would be if I were, somewhere in Peru smelling jasmine. So I think those little wonderful moments are precious. Absolutely.
Oh, that is so lovely. Smell of jasmine is gorgeous as well. So
absolutely.
Nice. So Lauren, what brought you to this work? How did you get into your spirituality? You mentioned there a little while ago about knowing things as a child, but perhaps say a little bit about your early journey.
My early journey, as a young child was always, different. I think a lot of us feel we're different. I was very creative, expressive, more of a performer in my youth, dancer, theater. And I think I've learned now as a medium who does demonstrations that's often a way I think that we work with spirit too, just being free to let the energy of spirit work with us. Yes. So it wasn't until I was in my later teens that I really had a clear sense that something spiritual was happening mediumship wise, working with spirit. I knew intuitively, I also had a sense of just intuition and psychic awareness, but I didn't really understand my spirit connection until I was a teen, when I'd lost a very beloved grandfather in my life. And that changed everything. I was young, 16, and I walked away from religion. I walked away from so much that just didn't make sense to the fact that he was with me, and I could feel that. And I kind of blew up my life at 16 with my family and just said, I'm gonna, kind of pretend I don't know what's going on yet and figure it out. The universe, again, is so synchronistic, Ann, isn't it? When I was in college, I studied to be a news journalist. I worked in a newspaper called The Messenger.
That's hilarious.
Well, and my job as a news reporter, as a green news reporter, new to the work, was hard news. So I was on the scene of accidents, murders, anytime there was any kind of serious issue. So I was seeing it firsthand, a lot of that trauma in the world. So I kind of left that work because I wanted to write the stories that were more positive. And I ended up living in a retired funeral home. So I literally left and quit that job because I was done with death and dying, and moved into a retired funeral home. And the energy just shifted everything. I was laid off from my professional job on 9/10 of 2001, and 9/11 changed everything. I changed everything for any of us, but to be, young in my 20s and unemployed and really feeling spirit, everything just started to shift at that point. I worked in a metaphysical shop for 4 years here in the States. And I learned to work with things like Reiki, energy healing, which was an amazing benefit to clarifying the energy of spirit too. I found that the more energy healing work I developed, the more clearer my connection with spirit also became. So I do believe there's a piece to energy healing and mediumship as well. And then I kind of didn't know, which was really sad. I was so young. I didn't know there was places like Arthur Finley and stuff where we could learn, and that there was a whole development process to mediumship. I just started going out there doing messages. I saw John Edward on TV and said, I kind of understand what's happening there. And I started to figure it out and bring messages in my local area. Then I developed, and as I developed, I was able to make it more clear, as you understand, and harness it. And then it kind of evolved into the work of my life. And at that time, at 26 years old, I would have laughed if you had told me I'd be here doing sacred journeys and public demonstrations. But it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Confusing in the early years, yes, but the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
It's amazing. And you've got a lot of training in a lot of different areas as well. You're a certified yoga laughter tutor. Is that what is that? That
was kind of a fun one. Laughter yoga is something here in the States, also came out of India, where you literally just create laughter and create energy. I took yoga laughter training at a time many years ago when I was really lost in this work as well. Where am I going? I feel like I lost my spark of joy, and I love to laugh, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
And so to find in your own self that you've lost something that you love to do, I took laughter yoga just to kind of create more laughter in my life. And so I became certified in it. And it's something that I sometimes throw into work. When people need to break the energy, we might do a little laughter yoga exercise to bring up the vibration of joy. So, yeah.
I love that. And it's funny because you said you were an actress years ago. Well, I was an actress years ago. And one thing I used to do is I set up these special workshops, and I used to go around and do the art of play and teach people how to. We just used to do really funny comedy drama games for that, to raise the vibration. So you'd work with people who are sad, they'd got some terrible traumas or things had gone on, everyday stuff. And they'd come to my workshops and all leave in a really good mood.
Well, and isn't it interesting as mediums as well, Anne? And I'm curious if you see this. We did improv, very similar. I was trained in improv comedy when I was young, which is, think on your feet, create a character. And I feel like when I'm working with spirit, when we're bringing in, their essence, there's the evidence, but sometimes you can get a little bit more into the personality too and animate that energy. And I think having improv, I often teach my students, go take improv training, go learn how to be, just spontaneous so that when spirit's working with you, you can step into that character energy for
That's
sure.
right. Yeah, it's great. It's really helpful and it's lovely. Oh, I'd love to watch you demonstrate. I must come to your next one.
I'm definitely animated, crazy, but usually we love working with spirit.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. And so you do online demonstrations, you do one-on-one readings. I know I saw on your website they are offering something to do with soul and the Akashic record. Perhaps you could speak a little bit about that aspect of your work as well.
Absolutely. It's a kind of a form of a psychic reading. I personally, feel that we've had more than one life. And, part of working in the energy of Egypt too is connecting with the Akashic energy. And as Akasha, which is it's a weird term these days that's getting a lot of ups and downs. Is real, is it not? But I think it's really just an understanding of the soul's journey. Your soul has been on a journey long before this life. So we're trying to tune into, if you're a medium, how many lifetimes have you been, say, working with spirit or worked in this way? So an Akashic soul reading is really getting a look at your soul's overall journey and how that's unfolding in this life. Understanding again, Anne, as performers, both of us, have you done, performance in the past? Your Akasha might be like, oh, in olden days you were with Shakespeare, and you might get to see a touch of that and why it's coming through in this life. So Akashic Soul is a wonderful way to just do both an intuitive life current reading, but yet understanding maybe this is part of your soul's work, or a part of that your soul is healing. So in a simple way, I really work with it also to understand what I call your spiritual genealogy. Do you work a lot with angels and guides? Do you work a lot in the shamanic path? Do you work a lot with the spirit world? We get to understand your spiritual genealogy through these great connections as well.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's so exciting. It's a great way to work.
I love it.
So brilliant. Love, love, love it. You've also designed a set of cards with John Holland. Yes. Talk to us about those.
Oh, the mediumship training deck. Funny, I always keep a little one right here in front of me. John is such a dear, blessed friend who came into my life, again, strategically over 10 years ago. And when we met, it was like a soul family. We had taught a lot together over the years. And we find that when we would teach these workshops, a lot of people at the end say, how do I continue the practice? How do I keep going? And we find that if you're not somebody who has access to people to practice, you might wane in the practice. So the mediumship training deck was a very unique deck where we created 50 cards that have different aspects of mediumship, tips to develop from, and some of it can even work if you're psychic, intuitive. We have everything from the spirit communication process, from spirit through spirit to spirit. As I'm, kind of flipping through here, even simple things like practice patience with yourself as you're developing, different meditation techniques, understanding what is the evidence of spirit, how to link and blend with spirit, helping people understand the terminology. So many times we would teach classes and people, would ask, the difference between a link and a blend, and they look at you like, what? So we really wanted to get a lot of the common terms also out there in a way that people could continue the practice and work with it. I mean, moments of gratitude, just, so some of them are development and just reminders, take care of your connection with spirit. Trance dance. Actually, this was inspired by a dear friend, Tony Stockwell. And I always said, I'm going to put this in a card for you, Tony, because he would make us do a little movement and dance in class when we would work with him. And So, and I always found movement to just be a way of opening ourselves, right? Raising the energy to spirit. So John and I had conceptualized this idea, and he lovingly presented it to Hay House, and they said, how soon can you get it to us? So we were really excited to create this deck together. You'll see two different perspectives here. You've got two different mediums. We literally split the deck 50-50 and then shared in the middle. And, John did the ones that he knew. He had a little bit more info and vice versa. And then we intermixed them together. So it was really fun.
Beautiful collaboration.
Yeah, and it's been just a great tool for people. I was really nervous, Anne, when this came out, because it wasn't your typical deck, and we can even use them as a form of oracle card if you want. But I was nervous. I was like, is this going to go over well? And it's been a bestseller for Hay House. They're very excited about it, and so are we. So,
that's so brilliant. The mediumship training deck. And if people want to buy that, where do they find that?
You can find it on Amazon and at the Hay House store. So if you go to hayhouse.com and off my website, you can click to one of the areas in which you can purchase it as well.
Wonderful. And how did you get to work with John Holland, or how did you get to know him to then work with him?
Yeah, a wonderful moment here. I feel blessed. I feel so blessed when you ask. John and I have known each other since about 2009. I was a fledgling medium. I say fledgling. I was just kind of up and coming in our local area here in New England. He actually just lives right down the road here from me. And I was out there doing psychic fairs, psychic house parties. I was throwing myself into the work, and somehow my name just got a bit in the area, a bit heard. So he was working at a local metaphysical shop that we both knew. And they asked him, I want to do an event. I'm looking for a local up and coming medium that can share a time with me. Who would you recommend? And they put my name out, and he goes, I keep hearing this name everywhere. And so he reached out, and we kind of instantly just felt like we knew each other. And, I'm so blessed. He literally took me under his wing, and what started off as almost like oh my God, it has turned into the most incredible friendship anyone could ask for, and collaboration as well. So over the years, we've become, dear friends, collaborators, and definitely like soul family.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. That's so nice. It's great, isn't it, when you just meet the mind of somebody else and you're just so similar and you just really enjoy each other's company and get each other.
Well, and in this work, I think sometimes it's a complication finding good friends that aren't, I hate to say, competitive. Here in the United States, it can be a bit cutthroat with mediumship. So to find somebody who's doing the work honestly, lovingly, and just is there to be collaborative is incredible. He's just a very generous gentleman. If anyone knows his work as well, John's just incredibly generous and just sweet. But I feel so blessed. This is where I say too, Anne, the more people put yourself out there and do the work, the more that these opportunities open for you. You have to show up, because a lot of people say, well, how did you get this opportunity? How did you meet these people? And I did the work. I just got out there. I threw myself into the work and really just tried to bring spirit messages. And I'm so blessed by spirit to have opened the doors of opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. You do have to just keep showing up and doing the work, like you say, and just see where it goes and where it evolves. It's fascinating what does unfold for you. And you also, Lauren, have done meditations for Hay House. So tell us a little bit about your meditations as well.
This is one of the favorite parts of my work is guided meditations. There's a few on Hay House. I'm also on Insight Timer for anybody, and there's some on my website. So meditation is, to me, based on the heart breath. So the main part of my work is heart breathing, which is particularly the series that's at Hay House, the Heart Breath series. And I've been working with this breathing technique for over 15 years. It's now becoming actually a bit more known as heart coherence in some aspects through places like Heart Math. But it's this idea of bringing your awareness into your heart and breathing from the heart space. A lot of times when we meditate and sitting in the power, as we know in mediumship, I also guide from that outward heart space, opening this energy and not just focused on the mind, because really the center of our being is, here. So a lot of that simple technique is put in through many different kinds of meditations that I've created, from sitting in the power to one of my newest ones is the cosmic breath. This one was inspired by Hathor's temple in Egypt, where you're taking in the energy of the moon and birthing the sun and creating cosmic flow. So they're really more simple meditations, but beautifully guided. And we now do them live. The Akashic healing meditation is one of the most popular ones that I put out there with a friend of mine, and we do sound baths where we're helping you heal through your lifetimes as well. I just love that work and created just simple but beautiful guided meditations. I probably sound like a crazy person when I'm talking here, but then I get into what they call my meditation voice, and everything just slows down, and it's a whole different Lauren in those moments.
Oh, no, they sound really, really beautiful. And again, they can be bought on your website, can they? Or Hay House?
They can, laurenrainbow.com, Insight Timer, hayhouse.com. There's a couple different avenues in which you can find some of the meditations. So if you go on Insight, just Google Lauren Rainbow, and Hay House, you would be looking for my name or the heart breath meditation.
It's so lovely. And so where do you think your mediumship is taking you then at this moment? I mean, you've done all the things that you've spoken about so far, but where do you think you're opening into in your work?
Big question for right now. I think we've seen a major shift in the world, as we understand, as we move through this pandemic. I felt a shift in spirit through that time. There was a deeper connection. And in talking with even a friend of mine this morning, I continue right now to want to still do as much delivery of spirit messages as we can. So I'm going to continue to do the local DEMS and working with spirit in that way. I always love teaching people to connect more with their spirit, their abilities. So I want to continue to work with that. But the biggest thing is coming back to the travels. We and my partner, my husband I actually met in India on one of my journeys. So even that, you never know. If you're looking for love, come with me. You might get lucky. But we just have such a passion for bringing, people to understand the world differently. So, we're going to continue to evolve the travels to other places, perhaps. We've got a few that we focus on, but to open up different areas like maybe Belize and things like that, creating more retreat places where we can dive into the energy, not just of journeying, say, through Egypt, but going to a place like a Sedona and developing mediumship, developing intuition. So getting people reconnected with each other. That is the goal, isn't it? After we've been so disconnected for so long, I hope to start just reconnecting us. And that's where I feel most called in the work right now.
It's interesting to think the ancient civilizations were probably much more connected than we are.
100%. When we go to these places, you can feel it. You can still feel a different respect, a different shift. Again, another dear friend of mine was saying, these places were built where they were built for a reason. The pyramids of Giza are where they were built for a reason. There's energy there that is available to us still after all these years. And if we can put down some of the technologies that we live on and connect upward, we might become more intuitive. Our phones are pretty intuitive these days, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. And I love the way you talked about the energy moving through dance and through movement and through connection in that way. And I find myself with my mediumship, it's becoming so much more than just giving people messages. I used to think, I can't be an actor or a writer anymore. I'll just have to be a medium because I didn't think people could understand that I could wear many hats. Yeah. But now I think I'm realizing through my mediumship, hang on a minute. Yes, you can. Yes, you can wear all of those hats and more, because isn't that mediumship? Isn't that the cry of the soul trying to express itself over and over again?
I love that. 100%. And, I feel that when we look at something, for example, like the sacred journeys, I see different audiences of folks connecting. There are people who come to me for just the message from spirit. They just want the bereavement support that maybe comes with that. And then the people who come on the journeys, for example, they're not always, super high spiritual, moving people. Sometimes it's just the ordinary wanting to create shift. And so you never know. And I think by wearing many hats, and we get the opportunity to, share many different ways in which we have come to work. Because I believe, we're evolving, aren't we, as mediums? It never stops growing. The education never stops changing. Trance has been a big development now in my work for years. Still working on that. But I find that as we seem to come, like when I started to really understand my evidential mediumship, I wanted to go deeper. What's the next step? So as long as people will inquire about what their next deep step is, I think that gives us all permission to wear multifaceted, hats in different directions, and reminds us that we're not just one, what's the word I want to say here? Kind of like a one-trick pony, that we have more to offer in just our own souls and our own journey. It's tough though, sometimes getting out of that box, isn't it?
It is tough. It is. It really can be. Yeah. You spoke earlier about showing up and just doing the work. And I think maybe some people might be quite interested if we just go down into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of what we mean by that. What do we really mean by that? Because some people might be thinking, oh, well, I do show up. I go to my classes every Thursday, and I go to my circle on a Monday. What else can I do? So I was just wondering, what did you do to show up for the work?
So when I first even knew that I had any kind of ability or awareness of intuition and mediumship, spirit came to me first. And I didn't even have a mediumship circle at the time. I got scooped into a world of metaphysical healing, which was really profound because it taught me to understand energy. So the reason why I say is showing up, I think, is when we answer the phone call inside of us, that there's something more, perhaps that wants to be developed, intuition, connection with spirit, whatever that may be. Stepping forward means breaking out of the comfort zone. While practice circles and classes are great, the real work comes when you step out of the classroom and actually sit down and do the work in the real world. So for me, it was trying a psychic fair just to see if I could, here in the States, we have psychic fair opportunities where people sit and do 20-minute reads. And, that was probably the almost better education than a practice circle, because you're sitting and have to do speed reading. You have 15 minutes to sit with another person, they disappearing another 15 minutes, and they're strangers. And so showing up to me is so much. It means really pushing yourself beyond the norm of what you get stuck in. You can get stuck in the practice circle, which is a gorgeous place to be. Or you can keep the practice circle and try something unique to see how your energy can expand. But if we keep it in the same place all the time, you limit your abilities' growth. The other piece of that, Ann, and this is something I teach all my students, when you develop your ability, when you allow it to have form and practice everything from whether it be Reiki or mediumship, psychic intuitive development, shamanic development. I mean, I've gone down so many roads, and to me, you find that there's one heartbeat to all of it. They all come from a place of love, even sometimes evidence, as we see in mediumship, trying to bring healing, love, and grace to the planet. And so, but some people may start as a medium and they're maybe not getting that, but then they take a Reiki class, for example, and they go, oh, wait, this, so stepping up, expanding, trying new things is the way I think we need to show up to get to that next step. If you want to grow, if it's somebody, you want to grow as a medium, you want to grow as an intuitive, you've got to put it out to the world for it to have birth. And that, I think, teaches us things as well. If I had not done psychic fairs or tried to do this, I might not know that I could actually do it and do it well. And I might still be a news journalist writing about, tragedy, death, and dying every day. By the way, I also believe that even those parts of our lives, what we think are normal, ordinary things, are the most amazing teachers. If I wasn't a news reporter, I would have a whole different way of working with spirit. The ability to interview people, ask questions, and understand trauma through my work as a journalist is also how I work as a medium. So a lot of times too, there's aspects of our real life that are a part of who we are. So showing up, coming back to that long-winded answer, is really pushing yourself beyond the norm, trying new things, giving your ability the chance to expand and try to help you unfold where it's going. I remember taking a job at a theater a couple of years into this work, back to the theater world as we're talking. I was a starving artist as a medium when we're young, right? We're trying to get the foundation to flow. So sometimes we need a part-time job. So I went back to the theater world and I got a job at a box office. And this gentleman, who's now one of my best friends, heard about me as a medium. And he goes, I heard about your other job. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, I want to put you on stage. I love your laugh. I love your personality. And I know, we were starting to see Lisa Williams on stage and doing dems like this. So he's like, I want to put you on stage and see what happens. And I'm like, oh, no. He's like, give me one chance to try. And because of him, I have now been able to do a lot of dems in this whole area. And it was all because he said to me, I need to do this to you. And I said, yes. So sometimes too, when spirit gives you that opportunity, you got to say yes. As terrified as I was, I'm like, never. And I'm so grateful for that moment because it changed my life. And now I would be happy to get anywhere I can in a public forum and just share love from spirit.
That is fantastic. I think your answer there is just so inspiring for everybody. So thank you so much for that. It's just so helpful, I think. Really cool.
I hope so. And I think, if I can just add one last piece to that, Ann, don't let anybody else control your development. Play, explore. If you step into a workshop and your teacher, and I even say this to my students, if I'm not your thing, you don't have to be only with me. There's so many teachers out there. Try different teachers, try different workshops so that you get to understand and find that niche for you. And I think that's so important of all spiritual development, whether it's mediumship, shamanic, whatever. Try different things. Don't feel owned by one. Don't let anyone own your development but you, and try different explorations of this. Don't be afraid to say, this is not my cup of tea, but don't give up if it's not. I think people to put their eggs in one basket. They might go just to a mediumship class, and if they don't make that connection in the first night, they're going to walk away. Do not give up. If it's in you, keep trying until you find the right teacher support that helps you feel like you can open up. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the advice that you've given there about trying all kinds of different classes, because it all feeds into the work that you're doing. It 100%. Complements.
It does. And we learn different perspectives. I've been so blessed to study with many teachers. Now, many of them are colleagues. And, by showing up to them and being in the workshop, I think you need to find the balance also between overdeveloping, and creating that real world moment. Remember, you can either live in the classroom or you can bring it to the real world. But if I haven't studied with the likes of, say, a John Holland and other folks like that, they all bring such different perspectives. And finding your truth in all of that is the best part of the journey, really.
So fantastic. So if people want to come and learn with you, have you got some classes going on at the moment, Lauren?
I know I've been in a little lull. Soon I will be putting out, for this coming fall season, I'm going to be doing kind of a beginner's mediumship intuition mentoring course that's coming up. So stay tuned. If you go to my website, laurenrainbow.com, and sign up for my newsletter, you'll get some first notice there. So we're starting to get classes back out. I also do every so often the live sound bath meditations, experiences, and many other opportunities like traveling. So yeah.
That's just absolutely brilliant. I mean, if anybody wants to pick up the links for your website and the things that you've mentioned, it will all be in the show notes for this episode, folks. So, Lauren, what have you got coming up over the next few days? What are you going to be working on when you wake up tomorrow?
Oh my God, I'm catching up on my life. I think we all just went through, showing up even during the pandemic as spiritual support people, as I say. So for 2 years, I was just, sitting around doing sessions and supporting. And so I took a little bit of downtime this summer to recollect myself. So now I'm catching up in the next few days, enjoying the last remnants of our summer here in New England. We're getting ready for our fall season here. So this is where we start to feel more spirited, literally, as we get into that, October time into November. So I am working on getting, Egypt filled, focusing on getting the classes booked and getting back in flow.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. And I wish you all the very, very best with it, and have a wonderful couple of trips. I would love to join you one day. I'm actually going to Australia myself in November, not on a spiritual trip. Well, kind of spiritual. I'm going to go and see one of my brothers. So,
find some sacred moments in there, Anne. Where can you go and be and connect? Right?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It's just going to be great. But really have a wonderful time on those trips. And for anybody who's interested in those, please do look up the details on Lauren's website, because you've got it laid out so beautifully with lovely descriptions of everything that people will be able to do when they're there. And it's just so inspiring. And if you can possibly go, folks, definitely join Lauren Rainbow. Lauren, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. So much fun.
Oh, I'm so sad that this is the end of this podcast episode. I so enjoyed Lauren's company. She's incredibly upbeat, so friendly, so welcoming, and she's a really, really fun person to be around. So I just found she really lifted my spirits just by being around her. Definitely go and have a look at the sacred travel journeys that she's got coming up. You'll find them so fascinating. And do get in touch with us either on the Psychic Matters group Facebook page or by emailing either one of us directly, and let us know what you thought of this episode, because we'd love to hear from you. You can sign up for our newsletters too by going to our individual websites, and that way you won't miss out on any of the upcoming information of the things that we both have on offer. If I may just remind you that all the resources for this podcast, including a full transcript, are over on my website under podcasts. So do head over there and you can pick everything up on the show notes. www.anntheato.com. If you know of anyone who is hard of hearing or deaf who would still like to benefit from the content of a podcast, do let them know about us. I'm proud to say that Psychic Matters is deaf aware and offers equal access to the deaf community with a full transcript of content, so do spread the word. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's episode. If you're enjoying the podcasts, please do leave a written review either on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, because that really does help the podcast move up the podcast charts. The highest we climbed last week was to the number 18 slot in Slovenia. So thank you very much to our Slovenian listeners. We were at number 48 in Canada and 60 in Hong Kong. Huge thanks to all of you out there who are listening and supporting this podcast all the way. I am so appreciative of every single one of you. It's time now to say au revoir and wish you well over the next couple of weeks. Let's keep some words of Lauren Rainbow's close to our hearts. Remember when she said that stepping forward means breaking out of the comfort zone? Perhaps we should all consider that over the next few days, myself included. How can we, as a community of like-minded people, how can we break out of our particular comfort zone? How can all of us this week break away, do new things, be brave, be adventurous? Lauren Rainbow is a great inspiration for all of us. Remember her words this week. If we keep in the same place all the time, we limit our ability to grow. Until next time, my name is Ann Théato, and thank you for listening to Psychic Matters.